Hey guys, this is God of Politics and welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked down in the description. And in today's video, I will be doing my updated Senate Battleground map. Now currently the Senate stands at 53 Republicans, 47 Democrats, but Democrats are looking to take back the Senate. They have many pickup opportunities, they have some pretty good candidates, and I'm going to be doing my state of the race. I'll be doing these races and predictions twice a month for the Battleground map, which is, the state of the race right now. If the election were held today, how would these races go? Now, as always, we will start off with the safe states. First, the safe states for the Republicans, which includes Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, as well as Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, as well as West Virginia. So that is all the safe seats for Republicans. Some of you could say maybe a little bit closer. Maybe Alabama is just under 10. Maybe Kentucky is just under 10, but we'll see about that. And then for the Democrats, I do believe they will win the state of Oregon by a safe margin, as well as the state of Illinois, as well as the state of New Mexico, as well as the state of Virginia with Mark Warner, New Jersey, Delaware, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, as well as New Hampshire with Jeanne Shaheen. Doesn't really have a good contender for the Republican side against her. So after the safe states, we have 44 seats for the Democrats and 42 seats for the Republicans. Getting into these likely margin states, first for the Republicans, I do believe South Carolina will go by a likely margin. This race is, I think even Lindsey Graham pointed this out, this race is more about him than it is about Jamie Harrison being a strong contender. Sure, he's raising a lot of money, but that is because Lindsey Graham is hated amongst liberals and people in the Democratic Party. And while some polls have shown it a little bit closer, we saw a similar story in 2016 with Hillary Clinton being close in some of these states. So you have to take them with a grain of salt. And, South Carolina did go to Trump by 13, and Lindsey Graham's not the most popular person. So I do think it'll be just under 10 points, maybe around 8 to 9, but we'll see if there's any more development later in the race. I also do believe the state of Texas will go by a likely margin. John Cornyn is not, he's not Ted Cruz. He's not as polarizing. He's not as unpopular, and his candidate against him is not as good. And while Texas overall is trending towards the Democrats, and John Cornyn will win by less than last time, he still will get a comfortable victory, and that goes by around a likely margin, probably by around 9 percentage points. As well as the state of Alaska will be putting in a likely margin. Some people may be surprised by this, but if you look further into it, we've actually had some polls from the Alaska Senate race showing that Al Gross has actually been tied with Dan Sullivan in some of these polls. And sure, that's PPP, which is a Democratic internal poll, but it is a sign that every now and then you have a closer race in Alaska, and Al Gross actually, maybe gets in under a safe margin. Do I think he has a real shot at winning? No, probably not. Trump won the state by 14 percentage points in 2016, and even the best polls for the Democrats have showed it not being very close. But I do believe in the Senate race it will probably be right around a likely margin. I also believe the state of Kansas will be right around a likely margin. I was ready to put this state at a safe margin, but then we had some polls. Sure, they were Democratic internals, but one of them wasn't a Democratic internal. One was Survey USA, showing the race within 2 points within the margin of error. And while I don't think it's going to be that close, and, I'm basically writing off Barbara Bollier as a, chance to win, I do think there's the ability that it'll be a little bit closer than this. Kansas is not like it used to be. The suburban areas up in the Northeast in Johnson County are moving towards the Democrats, and Democrats did, Kansas did elect a Democratic governor in 2018, and while Barbara Bollier, not saying she's going to win, not saying it's even going to be that close at all, I do believe she might be able to push it down into the likely margin, winning by around 9 to 10 percentage points. For the Democrats, I do believe they will win the state of Minnesota by a likely margin. Sure, we had like an Emerson poll showing it with at 3 points or something, but Tina Smith has a 7-1 fundraising advantage, a 5-1 cash on hand advantage. It is still Minnesota. She won by 10 points in her open special election back in 2018, and I don't think it's going to be too difficult for her to win, and I do think she'll be able to win by 5 to 6 percentage points, although that may be closer than what some people may have thought originally. And that is all of the likely margin states, I believe. So after the likely margin states, Republicans are at 46, Democrats are at 45. Getting into the lean margin states, however, I do believe the first one here is David Perdue versus Jon Ossoff. David Perdue is not that great of a candidate. If you look at 2014 with his first election, he actually won Georgia by less than what Mitt Romney won it by, and 2014 was an R+6 electorate, a red wave year, and he still could not win by that much. And in this election, we've actually seen some polls, not entirely in Democratic internal polls that have showed it, close, even within the margin of error. And while I don't think Jon Ossoff is going to win, I do think Purdue will win by around 2 to 3 percentage points, which is not very good for him considering that it is Georgia, and it is a sign of the overall, the overall trend towards the Democrats. And I do believe that that's very evident with the Georgia Senate race. I also do believe the Georgia special election will be by a lean margin for the Republicans. Now, this is kind of hard to predict because you have Doug Collins for the Republicans as well as Kelly Loeffler for the Republicans. You also have Raphael Warnock for the Democrats, and you have Lieberman as well, but he's not doing very well. There's a question of whether Democrats will, maybe even be locked out of this race, and at that point, you could argue it goes safe Republican because it's 2 Republican candidates. But Kelly Loeffler does better in the suburbs. Doug Collins does better in the rural areas. Raphael Warnock, will win the Atlanta area, some of those suburbs maybe. So it'll be interesting to see, but I do believe, at least for now, that Doug Collins will narrowly win it against Raphael Warnock. But again, we need to see some more polls. We need to see how the state of the race is changing because many things have changed in this race. I also am putting Montana at lean Republican. It's kind of hard to tell how this race is going to go. We haven't seen many new polls recently. We haven't seen much fundraising numbers recently. It is still Montana, so the fundamentals of the state are pretty, red. I'm going to put this basically just on the cusp of being a tilt margin by around 2 percentage points for Steve Daines. But there has been some bad polls for Steve Daines. Steve Bullock's actually been ahead in some of these polls, and Steve Bullock does have the opportunity to win. Democrats have not lost a governor election since 2000. They've lost they've won 5 out of the 6 Senate elections in this state, and so they have the ability to win here. Whether they'll win this time is another question. As of now, I don't think they are going to win it. For the Democrats, however, the lean margin states, first, I do believe that the state of Michigan will be by a lean margin. I do think this will be closer than what some people think. You have Gary Peters here, who I think at this point would have been by around 4 to 5 percentage points. He's a very generic Democrat running against John James, who's doing well in fundraising. He is quite a good candidate. He's, I believe, an Air Force veteran and a businessman. And, he can capitalize on some of these trends that you're seeing in Michigan, but Trump's really going to have to win Michigan by a couple points to bring John James over the line, and I just don't think that's going to happen, and that is why I am giving Gary Peters the victory in the state of Michigan. The state of Colorado, I also believe, would go by a lean margin as of now. John Hickenlooper is a good candidate overall. He's a very popular former governor of the state, but he has had a lot of scandals, and he, did have a not really serious primary contender, but he did have a primary contender regardless, and Colorado's a pretty, it's a pretty blue state now. It's been trending blue for quite a while, but John Hickenlooper should be able to win quite easily against Cory Gardner. Cory Gardner has some strengths overall, but he won't be enough to beat John Hickenlooper. As well as Arizona, I also believe will be going by a lean margin. Arizona is a state where you have Mark Kelly, who is the wife of the husband of Gabby Giffords, who was shot in the head. She was a former congressman. He's also the brother of Scott Kelly, who made, a pretty big achievement going to space for a whole year at a time, his twin brother. But that's not relevant to this. Mark Kelly's doing very well in fundraising, almost doubling Martha McSally's numbers. He's doing very well in polls, some even showing it by a safe margin. And Mark Kelly is a great candidate overall. Martha McSally wasn't even elected to this seat. She lost last time, and she's looking very likely to lose this time to Mark Kelly. And I think most people, even Republicans who are pretty biased, can agree on that. So after the lean margin states, Republicans are at 49, Democrats are at 48. Then getting these tilt margin states, I first believe Iowa would be a tilt margin state. Now, before you see Iowa's tilt red, even though it was almost safe red in 2016, Iowa's a very swingy state. If we go back to 2012, Barack Obama won in 2012 by 6 percentage points. We look at 2014, Republicans won the Senate election with Joni Ernst, as well as the popular vote in the House races being overwhelmingly Republican. In 2016, Donald Trump won the state by around 9.5 percentage points, and then 2018, Democrats won Democrats won the popular vote here in the House. The governor's race was quite close, and the Senate race was, overwhelmingly to Chuck Grassley. So Democrats do have the opportunity to win in the state. It's a very swingy state. We've actually seen some good polls, not in a while. We had a poll back in June from the Des Moines Register, which got 2016 right, which did show Teresa Greenfield up by 3 percentage points. And so if she can ride that momentum, keep getting more fundraising numbers, she does have the ability to win in this state. As of now, I'm going to put it tilt to Joni Ernst, but she's not a great candidate either. She's one of the most unpopular senators in the country. She'd had some scandals, and that is going to hurt her in the state, but I do believe narrowly, at least for now, it is in the Joni Ernst column. And then I have both North Carolina and Maine going tilt Democrat. Starting off with North Carolina, I do believe North Carolina is more likely to flip than the state of Maine. North Carolina, you have Tom Tillis, who is not very popular unpopular. North Carolina is not that red of a state to begin with. It could go to Joe Biden this time, and the polls have been quite good for Cal Cunningham overall. And while there's a lot of undecided voters, what guarantee is there that they'll, break for Tom Tillis, who's a very unpopular incumbent, who's, been very divisive in his, support for Donald Trump, which is not that great in a state where Donald Trump, only won by 3.5 percentage points, and he's losing ground in the suburbs overall. And so Cal Cunningham is quite a good candidate. I believe he's an Army veteran. He was also a state senator. And so he does have the ability to win. And as of now, I do believe he will win, albeit narrowly, probably by around 1.5 percentage points as of now, which would put it in the tilt margin. And then finally, with Maine, this is a seat that I do believe is, falling away from Susan Collins as the day goes by. She is running against Sarah Gideon, who is, a younger person. She's the Speaker of the Maine House. She does appeal to a lot of these voters who, before independents voted for, Susan Collins, and even some Democrats who voted for Susan Collins. But Susan Collins has put herself in a lose-lose situation by, voting against repealing Obamacare, voting for Kavanaugh, voting against the impeachment. So it's very difficult for Susan Collins to get many, supporters in this state. And she is the most unpopular senator after, only a couple years ago being the most popular senator. And she is in a fight for a political career. She hasn't been winning in a single poll so far. We'll have to wait to see more polls, more fundraising numbers, of which as of now Susan Collins is getting blown out of the water. But overall, I am putting this D tilt a D, but I do expect some of these undecided voters to break for Susan Collins, making these polls tighten and making the overall race closer. But I do believe as of now Sarah Gideon is slightly favored. So looking at the overall map here, Republicans are at 50 seats, Democrats are also at 50 seats. This would be effectively a takeover for the Democrats of the majority, because in my video yesterday, you saw my Battleground map, I predicted Joe Biden to win 290 to 258 or something like that. And so overall, it is pretty good for Democrats right now. Democrats have the ability to even gain in seats like Iowa, seats like Montana, but Republicans have chances to gain too. They can win back North Carolina, they can win back Maine, and even in a stretch scenario, they could gain back Arizona. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked down in the description. So again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.